Imagine your favorite, savagely funny Twitter account. The one that chronicles daily frustrations with a wit so sharp it could cut glass. The one that subtweets their partner's annoying habits, throws shade on boring party guests, and posts late-night thoughts that are equal parts genius and despair. Now, what if I told you the master of this art form wasn't a 21st century influencer, but a Victorian woman who died 50 years before the radio was even invented? Today, in the Candlelight Historian, we meet Jane Carlyle. And she had one of the best takes on marriage ever recorded. Forget timelines and algorithms. With just ink, paper, and a wicked sense of humour, Jane Carlyle was, quite possibly, history's first passive-aggressive Twitter queen. So, who was this proto-tweeter? Jane Bailey Welsh was born in Scotland in 1801. She was brilliant, fiercely intelligent, a voracious reader, and famously beautiful. In another life, she would have been a CEO, a novelist, a world-famous academic. But this was the 19th century. So she did what brilliant women were often expected to do. She married a genius. And this was no ordinary genius. This was Thomas Carlyle, the historian, the philosopher, the titan of Victorian letters. And also, one of the grumpiest, most difficult and loudest complainers in human history. He was plagued by a lifetime of stomach problems he called his demon dyspepsia, prone to volcanic moods, and pathologically obsessed with silence so he could work. They were a power couple. Their London home at 5 Cheney Row became the epicenter of literary society. Charles Dickens was a regular. So was Thackeray, John Stuart Mill, and a parade of other Victorian A-listers. But Jane had no public career, no outlet for her incredible intellect, except for one: letters, thousands of them. And in these letters, sent to friends, family, and even Thomas himself, she created a running commentary on her life that is so funny, so relatable, and so exquisitely snarky, it feels like it was written for the internet age. This wasn't just "Dear Cousin, the weather is fine." This was her burn book, her confessional, her stage. This was her timeline. Every great social media feed has a recurring character, and Jane's was, without a doubt, her husband. She loved him, yes, but good Lord, he tested her. Her letters are a masterclass in what we'd now call vague booking about your spouse. Take his constant complaining. After one of his epic moaning sessions, she didn't just sigh. She wrote to her cousin.
For a man who has such a torrent of vituperation to pour out on the ills of life, it is amazing to me how many little things he makes a quite hideous fuss about.
That is the Victorian equivalent of tweeting, "OMG, my husband is lecturing me about the fall of civilization because his toast is slightly too brown. Man-child." His need for absolute silence was legendary. He famously had a soundproof study built at the top of their house to escape the noise of London. But the construction itself drove Jane mad. She chronicled the domestic chaos with the energy of someone live tweeting a home renovation disaster. She wrote that the house was
like a sort of bedlam,
and described the chaos, the dust, and the endless noise with a level of detail that would make any modern blogger proud. When a neighbour's chickens were making too much noise, Thomas didn't just get annoyed, he obsessed. Jane's commentary on the Great Chicken War is comedy gold. She wrote,
"His whole life was made a torment to him by the crowing of a cock. It was a cock-a-doodle-doing from the depth of his soul."
You can almost see the tweet.
Day 47 of the chicken crisis. Philosopher husband claims his very soul is being cock-a-doodle-dooed into oblivion. I'm hiding the carving knife. Victorian problems.
She perfectly captured the exasperation of living with a moody creative. This quote is an all-timer.
"I am not at all the sort of person you and I took me for. I have no genius. I have only a talent for perceiving it in others."
It's the ultimate subtweet. A perfect blend of self-deprecation and a massive, passive-aggressive swipe at the all-consuming genius sucking up all the oxygen in the room. But Jane's wit wasn't just reserved for her husband. She turned her eagle eye on the whole of Victorian society. As the hook line says, she ran Victorian London like a subtweet thread. Their house was a revolving door of poets, politicians, and intellectuals. And Jane documented them all, especially the boring ones. She had no patience for people who wasted her time. After one particularly tedious visit from a guest, she wrote,
Roarer of a man who roared for 2 mortal hours about the great movements of the age. I was never more thankful in my life to hear the clock strike 10.
Translation: This guy cornered me at my own party to mansplain great movements to me for 2 hours. So glad he's gone. Time for wine. Worst guest ever. She was also a master of the backhanded compliment. When describing a rather plain-looking female writer, she noted dryly,
She is not so much a woman of genius as a woman of a great many small talents.
Ouch. The shade is so thick it's blocking out the gaslights. And like any good online chronicler, she even had a beloved pet to feature in her content. Her dog Nero was the true love of her life. She wrote about him constantly, his antics, his personality, his little doggy anxieties. After giving him a bath, she described him as looking like a
perfectly wretched drowned rat, looking up at me with tears in his eyes.
It's the 19th century version of posting a picture of your dog after a bath with the caption, "I am a monster." Her letters about Nero are tender, hilarious, and show the warm heart beneath the cynical wit. But to only paint Jane Carlyle as a snarky comedian would be to miss the point entirely. Because the best Twitter feeds, the ones we really connect with, aren't just about the jokes. They're about the vulnerability. They're the 2 AM posts where the mask comes off. Jane's letters are filled with these moments. She was often lonely. Thomas would be locked away in his study for weeks on end, wrestling with his books and his demons, leaving her to manage the house, the finances, and their entire social world alone. She was also frequently ill, suffering from terrible insomnia and relying on doses of laudanum, a common but dangerous opium tincture at the time. In the quiet of the night, with her pen as her only confidant, she wrote with breathtaking honesty about her frustrations. She knew she was brilliant, and she knew her potential was capped by her gender and her marriage. She once lamented,
I have a great talent for happiness, but I've been so long out of the habit of it that I've almost forgotten how.
It's a heartbreaking admission. This wasn't just a quip. This was the raw truth of a high IQ woman trapped in a gilded cage. Her letters were her work. They were her art. They were the novel she never got to write, the lectures she never got to give. She poured all of her analytical skill, her observational genius, and her emotional depth onto those pages. She was chronicling a life, not just the funny, frustrating parts, but the quiet, painful parts too. And that's what makes her so enduring. It's the mix of the sublime wit and the profound sadness. So, was Jane Carlyle history's first Twitter queen? In a way, yes. She mastered the short, punchy, observational format. She created a recurring cast of characters. She had her running gags, her celebrity cameos, her beloved pet content, and her moments of raw, late-night vulnerability. She didn't have followers or retweets, but her subscribers were the friends and family who eagerly awaited her next dispatch from the front lines of her extraordinary life. She used the technology available to her, pen and paper, to craft a persona, report on her world, and vent her frustrations with a voice so modern, so sharp, it leaps off the page nearly 200 years later. She was more than just the wife of a famous man. She was a diarist, a critic, a comedian, and a survivor. She was a genius in her own right, whose medium was the letter. She didn't just live in Victorian London. She ran it like a subtweet thread. What do you think? Is Jane Carlyle the ultimate historical social media star? Let me know your favorite of her quotes in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this dip into the shady side of history, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more stories you didn't learn in school. Thanks for watching The Candlelight Historian.